Fintech Chatter Podcast, brought to you by Tier 1 People, the leaders in executive search for Fintech ventures.
Hello and welcome to Fintech Chatter, the show where I connect with fintech leaders for a bit of a chat. I'm your host, Dexter Cousins, and today I've got somebody who's making their Fintech Chatter debut. I'm joined by Peita Piper, CEO of Avenue Bank. Peita.
Hi, Dexter. Thanks for having me today.
Congratulations, first of all. Not only is this your debut, but we're here kind of celebrating what's been a really momentous week. Not only for the people of Avenue Bank, and I can say Avenue Bank, yes.
Absolutely.
But also I think for the industry, fintech industry here in Australia as well. But before I spoil and steal your thunder, would you like to tell us a little bit about Avenue and the week that you've just had?
Sure. So Avenue Bank has launched in market, which is very exciting. We're a digital bank for businesses and we're specialising in bank guarantees. So that's we're a niche bank. We think of ourselves as a bank on the back end and a fintech in the front end because we've been born to really solve a problem in market, which is the arduous paper-based extensive process it takes businesses to obtain a bank guarantee. We've sort of reinvented that and we can issue a bank guarantee digitally within 24 hours.
Awesome. So
after a long, arduous, very thorough, as you would expect, a very thorough and rigorous process with APRA. 4.5 years, we obtained our banking licence on the 23rd of February, which was a huge milestone for us and I think a huge milestone for the industry, given what's happened in the past with other neobanks.
So we'll talk through that experience of going through the license and some other things as well. But before we do that, what does the license mean for Avenue Bank?
Well, it means that we can launch a bank guarantee in market. You can't have a bank guarantee product without being a bank. We had a desire to fix this problem and saw an opportunity in the market to innovate in this space. And in order to do that, we had to have a banking license to do it. So Avenue Bank was born from an idea to solve a problem, not just be a bank for a bank's sake, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I guess the challenges in some of the earlier neobank models as well, one being that they were pretty limited by the products that they could offer.
Correct.
I don't think they could offer.
They only had one. They had one side of the balance sheet, which made it very difficult. And I believe they hadn't had the lending side approved, which put them in a bit of a tough spot.
So what have Avenue Bank learned from that kind of period that the industry went through, and how have you kind of altered the model?
Well, we were in the process at the time that was occurring with the other neos, and what happened was APRA were reacting to what was going on with the Xinjas and the Volts, etc., and they were changing the restricted ADI framework as we were going through the process. So some examples of that, limited banking business, which is something that was brought in quite late in the framework. When COVID hit in 2020, APRA rewrote the restricted ADI framework. So the goalposts were shifting as we were moving through this process, which, as you can appreciate, it makes it difficult for new entrants because the game's changing as you're trying to play it.
Yeah.
We were fortunate that we knew, because we were behind the other neos in terms of the licensing journey, we knew that we had to have a product that satisfied both sides of the balance sheet. So we did know that. We didn't know we had to do limited banking business, so that was something that came up as we went through the journey. But that was a great result because we were able to get to market with our product and test our systems, test our processes, and actually start to understand what customers wanted.
Yeah.
So that was a really great thing that happened in terms of APRA bringing in the requirement for limited banking business. And then, of course, there's another important milestone called substantially complete, which is when you know that you're going through a 90-day SLA period with APRA post substantially complete to obtain your license, the full unrestricted license. And that APRA brought forward the capital requirement for ADI to that milestone. So we had to raise our ADI raise 3 months earlier than originally planned. So we had capital moving targets as well, which was challenging, particularly in the equity markets that we found ourselves in last year.
Yeah. So talk me through the actual product itself, bank guarantees. What's the opportunity there?
So bank guarantees are required for tenants when they take out a lease, whether that be a commercial lease, an industrial lease, a retail lease, any lease. Landlords typically demand a bank guarantee. And that's for their own protection in case the tenant defaults on the terms of the lease and either causes damage or basically defaults on the terms of the lease. The landlord has a way to protect themselves. Today, not today, before Avenue Bank was launched on the 4th of March, obtaining a bank guarantee is a very paper-based, clumsy, lengthy process. 4 to 6 weeks for a business to obtain a bank guarantee. They often have to walk into a branch to do it. It's an ancillary non-strategic product for the banks. A lot of even the smaller banks are moving out of the space. They don't want to do it. They've got other products they want to focus on, right? So we have completely reinvented the bank guarantee and digitised the application process and the originations process for a business. That takes 5 minutes. They can do that from the comfort of their own home. We do all the KYC, KYB digitally, all the contracts, everything's done digitally, and then we can issue that bank guarantee upon receipt of the term deposit within 24 hours, which is pretty powerful. Landlords love it, beneficiaries love it, because we are an APRA-regulated bank and we are government guaranteed. Also, they love the fact that we've got those funds secure in a term deposit and the bank guarantee is digital. They love that because there's literally landlords with warehouses full of pieces of paper that they've got to keep because it has to be physical. The physical banks that offer bank guarantees other than Avenue haven't digitised the instrument. So, look, we saw the opportunity. This is just the start of the innovation for us and this is just the beginning, but we do see ourselves as a specialist bank guarantee bank. We want to, face into products and services that aren't prioritised by the other majors.
One of the things that's really kind of struck me when I look at the mixed success that we've seen here in Oz, I think would kind of all say Judo Bank's been a success.
Absolutely.
And but a very simple approach, right? Which was
they're a relationship bank. So Judo took on a segment of the market, the M in SME, that were underserviced, and they've provided really good service to that sector. They have, absolutely very different from our proposition, which is we are also targeting an underserviced sector of the market, but we've innovated a product. Whereas Judo provides that, secured lending and deposits, but they do it exceptionally well.
Yeah. And what do you see as kind of the kind of future for the business and the kind of path that you go down, being that this product is kind of the launch pad? To me, the strategy has to be you pick one thing and do it well, and then earn the right to go and do other things.
Absolutely.
Very few businesses, they've been successful diversifying, but they're the kind of outliers. What do you see as kind of being the natural progression for Avenue Bank and the kind of other areas that you think, hey, once we've mastered this, we could then go and do this where there's a synergy there for our customers? So
firstly, I think, we've targeted bank guarantees for commercial, industrial and retail leases. There are bank guarantees for so many other purposes that we will be looking at next. I mentioned that there's further innovation that we desire to bring to the market, and that is innovating the product in a way that could potentially unlock cash and put money back in the hands of Australian businesses. So there's that opportunity we hope to tackle. But you're absolutely right, Dexter, you have to walk before you run. So we've got a plan. Our plan is to consolidate ourselves in the market, provide the best customer experience to Australian businesses in the obtention of their bank guarantee, and then look to explore bank guarantees for other purposes, and really look at that market and also further innovate the product to stay ahead of competition.
You've just used the phrase there, walk before you can run. But I think we have to remind ourselves that you're 4.5 years now into it. And it must be frustrating to kind of, know that you want to run, but you can't, and you've got to, you kind of, for regulatory purposes and all the other things. And it's one of the things that really fascinates me and I think keeps me really passionate about fintech is, unlike other tech or startup environments, you can't run fast or move fast and break things. Otherwise, you either go out of business or you could even end up in jail in fintech. How do you manage not just yourself, but the business and the team and the people? How do you help them kind of manage what must be frustrating, where you're naturally, anybody that's attracted to this style of business, you want to just go full speed?
To obtain a banking license, it is just such a high barrier to entry. And as I mentioned before, the goalposts just kept getting higher and higher and higher. That challenge was taken head on by the Avenue Bank employees and the team. And we had, absolute laser focus on the obtention of that license. Through that process, we made that that was our focus. You've made a really good point about balancing the innovation and the innovative spirit that obviously I want in a team and we have to be successful. That has been the biggest thing from a cultural perspective that I've tried to focus on with the team. And I do that by being really transparent with them around I don't just work with the CRO and we squirrel away in a room and deal with APRA. I talk about it very openly with the team. I'm very transparent with the team about the requirements that are put on us by the regulator and why, because most of the time they're very sensible reasons. And, we've got to work constructively together for the benefit of Avenue. It is frustrating. It is to be really open with you, the 4.5 years it took to get the license was an extremely challenging time for the team. Because we felt like every time sometimes we felt that when we were providing a solution or a really strong proposition to APRA, we would get knocked back.
Yeah.
But we're nothing but resilient. Yeah. And we had the support from our major shareholders to get us through this period, which meant that, that resilience really helped us through that process.
I was going to ask you about that because if, we go back 12 months ago and somebody had, asked me to put a bet on me being here a year later interviewing you about you getting a license, I don't think I would have taken that bet. And that's not a slight on Avenue, it's a slight on the markets and the capital markets that we had at the time, and the challenges. And I just want to give, I guess, a shout out and an opportunity for a shout out to your investors as well for having the faith, patience, belief in getting to this point.
Yeah, thank you. And, I talk a lot about alignment between board, alignment between our strategic shareholders, alignment between Exco. I believe that alignment is what got us through that challenging period. We were able to all come together to really understand when we needed to pivot, when we needed to change, lift, all of those things. We came together, and that is what got us through that period. And certainly we're so grateful to our strategic shareholders for their support through this period, and we got the license, and now we're at the starting line. Yeah. We are literally at the starting line.
The other part that you mentioned was the people, and I remember this was 4, maybe 5 years back now, helping Revolut launch in Australia, and I was actually having discussions with the regulators. And at the time I was trying to explain to them that this type of business going through staff isn't actually a bad thing. It's just a natural process, right? And
absolutely.
It's, kind of a year in this environment is like 7 to 10 years in a big bank.
Oh my gosh. I was asked about that from the Financial Review. They were saying you've had, staff turnover. Look, the truth is not everyone's cut out for a startup environment.
Yeah.
And the other truth is you need different people at different parts of your journey.
Yeah.
We were building a bank, now we're running a bank.
Yeah.
People that build a bank aren't necessarily the
totally
right...
different skill sets.
Totally different skill set. And, we always joke a week in Avenue is a year anywhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, the roller coaster of the journey, but that attracts people like me, people that love challenge, people that love... I mean, in a startup bank, we're all in the one office. Everybody sees me, speaks to me every day. I stand up in the office most mornings, provide an update on strategic matters or where we're at with the regulator, debriefing on the last prudential meeting. Everybody hears, you get exposure to things you'd never get exposure to in a larger organisation or even a medium-sized kind of bank. So people that want to extend themselves and really want that broader experience and understanding of how to run a business are attracted to places like Avenue Bank.
Yeah. And look, I think it's there's so many paradoxes with these narratives that get pulled out by the media around, them applying kind of traditional methodology, and say, oh, well, if they're not there for 5 years, that's a bad thing. And the reality is, I remember saying this to Matt Baxby when I was talking to him about the CEO Revolut role, and I said, look, Matt, it might be 18 months, but it'll be the best 18 months of your life. Career.
Yeah.
He's been there 4 years.
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me on to something else that I wanted to talk to you about, which was a really great post that you put up on International Women's Day about the glass cliff. And I wanted to kind of really just get your kind of experience of taking an opportunity, because my understanding is you weren't a founder at Avenue Bank. You'd kind of come in and were on the exec team and then were given the CEO role.
There's a bit more to that history. So I did join as a founding employee.
Right.
And I was a chief customer officer responsible for operations, product, marketing, everything except risk and finance, working with the CEO at the time, who was one of the founders, Colin Porter. And then, time went by. And then 15 months ago, I was appointed CEO by our chairman, Stephen Ricks, which was at a very challenging time in Avenue's history. Mm. That was when we were, and this is publicly available information, we were on a pathway to sell to Heartland, who had, expressed interest in Avenue Bank because they were looking to fuel their lending businesses in Australia. So we were on that pathway. That sale fell through and the sale of Avenue fell through and they bought Challenger. So I was appointed and then the Avenue CEO, George Confoss, resigned. So I was appointed at a time where we had a specific runway. We were on a different path. So I had to really bring the business, and I took, again, alignment back to its core purpose, which was to deliver an innovative bank guarantee to market and solve a problem for Australian businesses rather than raise deposits for
What were your initial kind of thoughts when you were given the opportunity?
Oh, I remember talking to my husband and saying, this could be the shortest CEO role of all time, but I'm going to take it because I'm going to put myself out there and go for it. And if I can do this, then what an incredible opportunity and what an incredible challenge to overcome. And, and I just deeply love this business. Yeah. And so I put myself out there and gave it a go, and here we are.
How do you feel now then, and how did you feel the moment the license came through?
Well, to be honest, it's not like, woohoo, you get the license.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming. I had a very nice phone call from APRA giving me a heads up. So that was the moment before the actual license came that I was jumping up and down in the kitchen outside our office, and I think the staff were looking at me through the window going, why is she jumping up and down?
Yeah.
So pretty relieved, but also now, and obviously you have to take the time to celebrate those achievements. But now it's just head down and on to the next challenge.
Yeah. I've not that I've ever done this before, but it kind of sounds almost like what you hear from these mountain climbers. They kind of get to the peak and they're looking to go, wow, what's next?
Yeah, that's exactly how it feels.
But they know they're going to get right. They kind of get to a certain stage, right, I've got this now. We know it. I know I'm going to get to the peak.
The
certainty, so the moment isn't like this one of elation. And, it's funny because that's my own personal experience. I think of all the kind of the great things that have happened to me here in Australia. And other than getting married, I don't think my wife and I have celebrated any of them, even though in the lead up, we're like, we're going to have the biggest party when we get citizenship. We're going to have the biggest party when we turn 40.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah. You're just like, okay, well, that's done. What's next?
Yeah.
So that's certainly, but it was really important for the team that we marked the milestone. Really important because a lot of people have, dedicated an awful lot, sacrificed an awful lot. Families have sacrificed an awful lot through this process. So it was important for the team that we marked the milestone, but then it was important that we just get the bloody hell on with it, to be honest.
I think that's one of the sacrifices that a true leader has to make is they don't celebrate the moments like everybody else can.
It's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, but I think you're right. I think you just have to be always looking ahead.
Yeah.
You can't ever look behind.
Yeah. So with regards to working with the founders, and I'm gonna put a part of my experience and observations out there, having worked for 25 years, in executive search. But there's a couple of things that I see. First of all, the glass cliff is an absolute true thing. And I think that the approach that you took and the mindset that you had to it is absolutely the right approach. A much tougher challenge, I think, is actually moving into a CEO role when you have founders in the business, because essentially this is their baby. This is like me, God forbid it ever happened, but if my wife and I separated and she's got a new man and he's taking my kids to sports and stuff, right? I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Yeah. So how did you find the experience of moving into the CEO role with the founders still involved in the business?
Yeah, so both founders, Colin Porter and Dale Hurley, are still involved with Avenue Bank. Colin's on the board now as one of our non-executive directors, and Dale Hurley, Chief Digital Officer with Avenue Bank. Look, I think, going back to that word alignment is me bringing them along on the journey, because they had the most brilliant idea, right? They saw the opportunity in the market. Both of them are not bankers. Both of them have no experience in dealing with regulators. They're startup entrepreneur ideas guys, right? And brilliant at that. I think they saw very quickly that they needed to bring on executives with banking experience to deliver the dream that they had. So I think that was something that they completely acknowledged. But yeah, there's been times where they've been particularly wedded to parts of their dream that we've pivoted away from, that it's been frustrating, I'm sure, for them. But, we've worked together as a board to make the right decisions for Avenue. And I think that realisation from that, we're a public company. They're not the only shareholders. We've got to make decisions, the right decisions for Avenue Bank, and they've done that in conjunction with me and with the board. But, nothing's ever smooth sailing. I mean, we've had to make some decisions around the product that I'm sure that they're not super delighted with, and that's based on feedback from the regulator, and that's based on market conditions, etc. So, I think having an open, transparent relationship and being honest with each other and calling it when you call it is the way we've gotten through that.
Yeah.
And, they're both so brave. Who would put their hand up and go, you know what, I'm going to start a bank?
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, the context being that they just had a successful exit from Creditor Watch that they'd built, right? And then
Correct.
took that, kind of windfall when people would buy a yacht or their own private island. They've gone and tried to build a bank, which is, it's kind of I think of any type of business that you would ever look to build, that is
the most challenging.
With
no doubt,
hands down. And it's you got to be slightly kind of crazy to do it.
Absolutely, we say that we're like, now we're here looking back, would you do this again? And they both say yes. So that is crazy.
One of the things that really frustrates me, Peita, is that I've seen people go on this journey, pour their heart and soul into it, and it hasn't worked out. And then you go on social media or LinkedIn or you look in the press and you got all the armchair critics who are experts who told you it was never going to work. And when 99% of startups fail, to pick the 99% isn't really a great skill, right? It's
so true. That is, I've never thought about it like that, but that is so true. And I mean, everybody's a critic, right?
Yeah.
And I had some really nice messages from CEOs and other leaders and founders of other banks that have made it and that haven't. I think if you've gone through this process, you understand. No one will understand unless you've gone through this process. I don't listen to the negative commentary of "told you so," and hindsight's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
That water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
If you really want to sit at home and have your little say and criticise, just have some empathy for the people that have gone through the challenge and maybe haven't made it. But it's a complex it's not a simple silver bullet reason why these banks have failed. It's a very complex story, and I think unless you understand the complexity, you really shouldn't be making these lofty remarks.
Yeah, and I think people, everybody looks for a finger to point, but I think the reality is that there's a lot of factors that go into it, right?
That's what I mean about the complexity.
One of the key ones is the fact that we've got a kind of an immature investment community here.
Absolutely.
Or not maybe it's immature, but just risk averse. And this is like decades long plays, right? Like you're talking about 2 decades to get to the point where you're going to be competing. It took ING, a global bank. It took them 20 years to get to more than 500,000 customers.
Yeah, wow.
Right?
I didn't know that statistic.
That's kind of, that shows the challenges that these businesses face. And so, there seems to be, the kind of tall poppy syndrome. You're not even given the opportunity to even kind of blossom, right?
No.
You're at seed stage, will knock you down.
Yeah, well, I just think it's interesting, your remarks about the investment community here, and then when it's almost like when there's a challenging equity market, we feel it more than anywhere else in the world because of our size and potentially maturity. So going through that period was really, really was really challenging, and that's when you have to ensure that your strategic shareholders are aligned with you and the vision and the strategy, and we're all in the boat together. Yeah.
So the other challenge for founders and leaders in fintech is you're such a pivotal part of the business that if you're not right, the business isn't right as well. I think all of us have faced moments in this last 4 years, which is like when you consider the stuff we've all been through this last 4 years, right? Like, I know we were using the word unprecedented a lot, but it's been a grind, right? Like a grind for a lot of people. How have you kept yourself, mentally in a good shape, physically in a good shape, so that you're sharp and you can, deal with all of the things, not the detractors, the haters, the, investors pulling out at the last minute, the regulators frustrating you. You're kind of getting it from every single angle. And excuse my language here, but I often say that the CEO role is the filling in a shit sandwich.
Yeah. Well, it's lonely.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure you've got the right support, and that comes for me from my family, from other CEOs. It might come from elsewhere, but my husband is just so supportive. I wouldn't be here without him. And my kids are amazing, and I've just felt the love from friends and family who have understood how challenging this period is, and I haven't been able to spend the time that I would have liked, particularly with my friends, which was just the way it was, coming out the back of COVID, and just the work that had to happen to get us where we are, and don't regret it for a second. But I'm hoping as we move through the next period, I can get a little bit of my life back. But certainly you do need to. Exercise for me is, I haven't been able to do as much of it as I would like, but really important, and something I'm trying now to get back into a good rhythm. Yeah.
I think it's incredible that we've got another female bank CEO as well. And hopefully this is a catalyst for us to see more. As a husband, a father, a business owner, and somebody who's heavily involved in the human capital space and has been for a quarter of a century, equality and kind of getting that some form of equilibrium is a team effort. And very much I'm shouting out to the husbands and dads and men out there that sometimes kind of we have to swap roles and to a kind of tag team event. And I think what have you found has been the kind of role, you mentioned your husband there, what's the role that he's played to enable you to do this?
My husband's a very successful orthopedic surgeon, so he's pretty busy too, but he's got a private practice and he does some trauma as well. He's just been so supportive of me through, we've been married almost 20 years, got 3 kids together. He's given me the confidence to go for things that I probably wouldn't typically have stepped forward for. And he's just got this enormous ability to give me the support and the courage and the confidence, and he believes in me. So it's really nice that I've got that. So we're a team. We're both full-time working parents with 3 children, so it's not easy, as all parents out there know. But we make it work, and between the two of us, we make it work.
Awesome.
And it's challenging, but it's also beautiful too, because family's everything for us, and we make it work.
Yeah, and look, I think we can't. As a parent myself as well, I know it's my responsibility not to tell my kids what they should do or who they should be, but to show them who they can be.
Absolutely,
and that only comes from me being the best version of me that I can be. And that's hard, right? Like, it's really hard.
The kids' have been so much part of this journey too. I mean, 15, 13 and 10. So they understand everything that's occurred over the last 4 years and the challenge of the banking license, and when I stepped into the CEO role, and they watch, and they're watching Calvin and I, my husband and I, and they're watching. And I think it's really important, as you said, that you role model the best version of yourself, and you put yourself out there, and you're brave, and you take on challenges, and they see you taking on challenges. I think that's a really important lesson for them.
Now, we're coming to a wrap up. We're still early in 2024, so you kind of got the year off to a great start. What else can we expect from Avenue Bank over the course of this year?
This year, so we're just laser focused on establishing our 100% cash collateralized bank guarantee in market, building our brand equity, really working with partners to get this product out in market and hit our commercial objectives. We're 7 days in of trading, and we've had the most incredible response from not just customers but partners. We've had, we've just had a lot of interest and a lot of business already that we've written in 6 days. So
Wow.
We're off to a great start. We want to continue that momentum, hit our targets, successfully raise the capital we need later this year, and then move on to the next challenge.
Now, we also get amazing talent listening to this podcast. If anybody is, has heard this and is inspired and would like to potentially be part of the Avenue journey, where's the best place for them to find out about careers? Just
come to the Avenue Bank website, and we've got a About Us page, which there's a careers section, so you can find all about us there. avenuebank.com.au.
Brilliant. Well, Peita, it's been amazing to catch up with you, and thanks for sharing, what is such a great achievement. And look, I think pivotal at a time where we haven't had many success stories to celebrate this last 12 months in Aussie FinTech. So it's great to see that this last 4.5 years, I think for everybody, not just for the people at Avenue Bank, but I think, the message that it sends out for investors as well, that if you stick with it, you get your kind of rewards in the end.
Thanks, Dexter, for having me. I really enjoyed it.
As always, folks, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're new to the show, make sure you follow us and leave a review. It really helps me get on great guests like Peita and Avenue Bank. If you're coming back, thanks so much for your support. And until the next episode, keep well. Fintech Chatter is produced by Tier 1 people, leaders in fintech executive search. We'll find world-class leadership talent to build world-class fintech ventures. And you can find us at tier1people.com.